Good day and welcome back to Agri SA's Congress 2020. Right now in the studio we're speaking to Omri van Zyl, who's the Executive Director of Agri SA Enterprises. Hi Omri, welcome.
Hi Lindy.
Omri, we've had such a year with COVID playing havoc with the economy. South Africa's economy has pretty much stagnated, and agriculture has been the saving grace, growing with 15%. To what do you attribute that growth?
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, we're so thankful for it. Well, for starters, we were an essential service, so we did manage to get our products out, and luckily enough, our food system is bolstered enough so that we could do that. Obviously, in certain industries, in the alcohol-related industries, the wine industry, the tobacco industry, there's been major challenges just in keeping the value chains open. But I think as Agri SA, we did an enormously good job to actually keep in business and keep exporting our products through this period. So we're very thankful, and it shows you that, you know, when the chips are down, agriculture still remains the lifeblood of any economy, and I'm still to be proven different, and I firmly believe that.
So we're quite a resilient industry, but there are challenges going forward. What would you say are the biggest challenges that are going to face the industry in the next 5 years?
Well, Lenny, there's a couple. Currently, we're looking at things like climate change. Obviously, farm murders is a major issue for us. From a liquidity and banking perspective, there's a lot of problems that we still need to sort out. So I think as an economy as a whole, and as an industry that's part of an economy that is in trouble, we are in trouble. We were downgraded to junk status. The land bank has been downgraded to junk status. So we would bluff ourselves if we don't acknowledge that. But I think we've always had the ability to get ourselves out of trouble. And hopefully this is an opportunity for us to do that.
Are there any trade issues that you can foresee that they would need to be tackled in the next 5 years?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, for us, the strategy would be to have a very well coordinated, functioning trade strategy that we can execute without new market development. And remember, we compete internationally, so it's not like, you know, Brazil or Chile sitting on their hands waiting for us to make a move. We would have to have a very targeted and coordinated trade strategy to make sure that we bolster our export crops. We are the biggest producer of macadamia nuts in the world, of citrus, of avos, you name it. So we actually benchmark to the best in the world. And I think that is something that we can sharpen our pencil on, and that would require broader collaboration within the industry and with the necessary the stakeholders within the industry.
And of course, trade is also an area where we can win with a weak exchange rate.
No, of course. So we win on the upside, you lose on the downside. So I think with a weakening rand, the economy being in junk status, the rand hasn't done well. And a lot of our export crops have done very well. And that shows you the type of international valuta that you can bring into the South African system, and the contribution that agriculture can make to job creation, to growing industries, to growing our own economy further. And I think a lot of us have prepared ourselves for that type of growth for the next cycle, in terms of where do we take this country now? Where do we take agriculture now? So it's a key focus for us.
Are there any opportunities specifically in regards to the export sector that we can see opening up in the next few years?
Well, massively. I mean, obviously we have the African Free Trade Agreement. There's the AGOA agreement that comes up for review. So non-tariff barriers is something that's a key focus. I think, again, back to we need to get our show sorted out. You know, we need to get our house in order. Once we can do that, then without being too fragmented in the approach, we can actually have a much bigger impact on the market access that we want and which markets we want to be in, at what price premiums. But I must be honest, a lot of these things are already happening, so it's a matter of pulling them together and making sure that we're operating in the same direction.
So I know Agri SA is doing a lot of work to put the proverbial house in order. Can you just highlight some of the issues specifically that you are working on to make South Africa more of an attractive destination to source from?
To make South Africa great again. Yes, for sure. I think the first is, and again, we must not fool ourselves, capital is shy. We would need to make South Africa a place to invest into. And not just for external investors, but for ourselves as well, for our own farmers, for our own agri-businesses. And in order to achieve that, we need policy certainty. Stuff like expropriation without compensation is not something anybody wants to hear in terms of any stretch of the imagination, especially when it comes to economic revitalization. So I think that's the first one. Secondly, we need to sort out the liquidity in the sector. I mean, it's of fundamental concern that is not sorted out. You know, functioning organizations that kind of looks at, and with liquidity I mean the money in the system. I mean, you know, funding farmers through their production periods. These are things that requires urgent and immediate attention, and those are just three that I can think of right now that we need to sort out as a matter of urgency.
I just want to stay on the topic of financing. How is Agri-SA dealing with the big issue of development finance and finance in general in the agricultural sector?
Yes, that's a good question, Lindy. So there's two aspects to it. There's the commercial funding aspect, and that's obviously something that is extremely important. So we have engaged with the banks that fund agriculture, as well as the Land Bank, which is the biggest lender of money at the moment and borrower. So therein lies a particular risk. And then I think on the development funding side, you know, the softer type of loan capital or equity capital that you can unlock in that space is going to be key to fund businesses going forward. And with that, I don't just mean, you know, transformation businesses, all businesses. And that is a way to get yourself out of, and to actually get yourself out of an economic problem that we will now face for the next 10, 15 years. And I do honestly think the impact of COVID and the financial impact of COVID, the fiscal deficit is something that we should not underestimate. I think the worst is still to come, without sounding alarmist. And in that respect, we need to gear ourselves to manage that risk.
Is there something that farmers can do specifically to manage that risk?
Well, I think every farmer is an entrepreneur. Every farmer is a business. Every farmer is exposed to certain things, which they know. I think expert advice is critical. You know, things like the restructuring of business, you know, forward cover, things that you don't necessarily think about. The farmer of the future, the agribusiness of the future, the agri-value chain of the future would have to definitely think about what are the game-changing things in their worlds. From the farm gate right up to how business gets done by big corporations in the agriculture sector is changing. It's changing fast. And I think pretty soon, you know, we're going to see a lot of changes, and we're already seeing it, a lot of changes in the way production happens, in the way trading happens, in the different segments of market access. And I think that is something that definitely needs attention, but it needs forward thinking, because I can assure you that a lot of the people I've spoken to overseas are already thinking about that. In fact, a lot of them are already doing it. So for us to remain competitive and profitable, that we definitely need to think about that and our approach to it.
So looking further forward, what do you think the future holds for agriculture? Well,
I think the future in agriculture in South Africa is bright. I think that. Just for the one sole purpose is that we have the people here to make a massive difference, that have been doing that. Secondly, the food system is very well equipped. Thirdly, we have an amazing banking sector. If you just look at that as a part of if you look at our balance sheet, the farmers and the banks are definitely part of something that we see as an asset in this country. And I think the future of South African agriculture will depend on us to a large extent, and in the way that we cooperate with each other, and in the way that we compete with each other, and in the way that we think together to solve problems. I honestly think we're at a point in South Africa's history where we cannot go forward without working together, even if we don't agree with each other. And I sense that's happening in the agriculture sector. I sense that needs to happen on a much broader economic front. And I see that is the way that Africa can, get itself out of financial trouble and put the continent where it should belong, which should be the seed of the green revolution in the world, the food revolution. And South Africa, I see, is the key to unlock that potential.
Absolutely. We certainly have been a front runner for decades, and I think South Africa's still got a very big role to play in guiding the rest of Africa.
For sure.
Omri, thank you very much for your message of unity and for the positive outlook on the South African agricultural sector. Please stay tuned for more discussions with the Agri SA Congress 2020.